Hi, welcome again to our course on biodesign, strategy for innovation and design on bioengineering. Today we're going to take a brief look to reimbursement strategies. So if you remember a little bit on reimbursement basics, we talked about payers and codes and things that were perhaps more complex than even FDA approval. Though for today, I want you to recognize that FDA approval also does not guarantee reimbursement, and to identify some key payers and parameters that influence reimbursement decisions and planification. I want you to also know how to develop a strategy to generate the evidence that you will need to support your reimbursement strategy, as well as to understand the steps involved in requesting and obtaining these necessary codes in the terms and align with your development process. Finally, I want you to learn to develop tactical plans to facilitate successful reimbursement at the time of product launch and afterwards. So if we think about reimbursement strategy activities, we have to think about the matrix of activities regarding clinical, reimbursement, coding, payer, targeting, development, and your timeline in terms of months or years. As such, everything in terms of reimbursement perhaps is going to start even 2 years before product launch. Which is something really interesting. Consider that reimbursement is something that most innovators actually think only after they have already developed the product. So if we think about this, then we can actually acknowledge that to perform a reimbursement analysis is probably one of the very first things that you have to do when doing a concept assessment, which may be even between minus 24 months or 18 months before product launch. After that, in terms of reimbursement, as your product goes from concept to pre-market and introduction to market stages, you have to perform a value proposition determination for your reimbursement initiative to determine the price and prepare the cost model and the dossier and everything else in order for you to submit for coding and reimbursement. In this sense, in terms of coding, you may also be required in the biodesign process to actually identify coding needs, and especially some codes that actually can be interesting for you to explore early on, even in pre-market phases. As such, something really important to perform even from the phase in concept assessment is to identify possible payers, and not only Medicare and Medicaid. If reimbursement seems to be a viable option for you, then identifying these pairs is going to be critical for you even to target and tailor your products to these customers and payers. Something that is of utmost importance in all reimbursement strategy activities is to think about price and reimbursement as something that must be aligned, and if not, it's going to be a dramatical failure for your product. If your price point is higher than the reimbursement that the hospital or the doctor is going to receive for using your product, that means that your product is not going to be of any value. It's actually going to be a cost for the doctors to use. That could be a change if your clinical research strategy actually shows that the possible clinical effects are way more beneficial than the possible cost that it could have. Though what you want to do in terms of clinical research for reimbursement is to create enough data as your product moves on from creation to launch, and then from launch to market adoption, that using your device actually reduces costs to the healthcare system. If your product shows through clinical data and through market data that it actually provides better outcomes for the patients, less remissions, and of course money returned to the system, then that data is going to be very, very strong for reimbursement codes to adapt to your price point. But if such a strategy is not needed, basically what you want to do anyways is to show that the clinical efficacy and value of your product actually meets reimbursement and coding of your device. So what exactly what would be the most important basic steps to do in actually going for a reimbursement strategy? Well, first you have to assess the reimbursement landscape, which includes coding, payers, and of course pricing and the dynamics of the market. After that, you want to perform primary market research with payers and decision makers, so going directly to them and doing benchmarking on the price points and the characteristics of the product that they would be able and willing to buy and to be reimbursed for. After that, you want to evaluate the strategic options, so you must have or will have plenty reimbursement options, but you want to choose the best one, and so you have to evaluate them. The way you evaluate those options fairly depend on the reimbursement schemes that you use. After that, you want to develop the evidence through clinical research and other types of research that give evidence of Medicare and Medicaid that your product is beneficial clinically and economically. And finally, you want to organize a timeline such as the one that I have shown you to develop a budget and a plan for reimbursement tactics at launch and before, and of course after that. And with that, we have concluded a little bit of our exploration on reimbursement strategies. Please, for more information, refer to our book on biodesign, and if you have any questions, refer also to the CMS webpage where you can find more of these contents. My name is Luis Soengsen. Thank you for watching.